Hi everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of Spark. If you're watching this, please don't forget to show us love by subscribing and commenting. We will read all of them. Today's guest is Andreas Loy, the founder and ex-CEO of Konux, a company that have transformed the whole railway operations across the world. By the age of 29, he have been able to create more than 500 million euros in shareholder value and build a successful scale-up. But then he had to stop everything and leave his very own company because of health issues. Today, he will be talking about his journey, the mistake he made by turning all of his life about work. He will show us tips and tricks on how to sustain a healthy lifestyle physically, mentally, and emotionally while building a successful venture. This episode is for everyone who wants to have a successful career, but at the same time, stay happy and healthy. Give it a go. Hi Andreas, I'm really glad to have you on board. You are the first guest I'd approach, and I technically approached you before we have anything. Like it was just an idea, and you were just, hell yeah, let's do it. Took us a while, but I'm really glad to have you on board. I would love to start with asking you, how do you feel? I usually don't ask guests this question because they will be lying or trust they are humans, so they would love to be like, I'm fine. And I want to know, how do you actually feel?
I feel a little bit I'm feeling happy that I'm healthy because I just had food poisoning on the airplane, and I can tell you that's not a great experience in many ways. And no, I'm recovering from that, and I feel like because I'm embarking different entrepreneurial journeys again, and I'm currently feeling like there's a lot of chaos, but I feel probably I feel on the other side, I feel a little bit peaceful, because I think true balance is not avoiding chaos. It's more of if you're balanced, how can you find peace in chaos? And I think this is a little bit, so this is how I feel. And then I feel balanced, and then I'm flipping out. And today is maybe a day where I'm more on the other side.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, honestly, chaos have been part of your journey. I did my research. I've get to know you even a little bit more than our listener, because we are part of the same community, quite Manage More. And for the people who don't know you, who don't know Andreas Loy, how would you describe yourself? How would you put it in few sentences to get them to know who you are? What have you done? What's your journey? Just let us know.
Yeah, so I'm Andreas. I'm an entrepreneur, a human being. I think I'm in service of my local communities and also the planet where we're living on. And so I started a company when I was 22, learned made millions of mistakes. Somehow we still made it quite to a significant size. Then during that journey, I burned myself out. I got to know what the preciousness of health means by having a heart issue with 29. And when I was on the top of the peak, coming back from Davos, speaking at the World Economic Forum, just raised 80 million, and 1 or 2 days later, you're at the doctor, and he looks at you, and more doctors come into the room, and it was like, oh my God, can you please go away from that treadmill? We need to lie down. And then, so I think I had a very broad journey in terms of entrepreneurial, my entrepreneurial journey with Konux, but also then my journey towards myself, and then from there surrendering to help different NGOs, helping local communities, helping or starting NGOs around children in the field of consciousness, and creating events, just being in service of life, where everything that feels good.
Interesting.
So coming back to the question of feeling, everything that feels good, I do. Everything else I try to avoid or learn that it doesn't feel good.
But were you like this since the beginning, since you started, or how was it? I would love to dig deep into your founding experience. How was it at that day when you were 22 and you just decided, I'm going to found this company, I'm going to turn it into a multi-million revenue company. How was it?
Yeah, I think for me, it was very different, right? Because if you ask me how would I feel, I would have probably, with 28 or 29, I would have bullshit you and say they're like, I'm feeling great, I feel great every day. And it's like, and I think my reality was I was pretty disconnected at a certain time, because I didn't feel, I thought I think I was thinking all the time about everything around me and what will people want to hear to push the company, which was maybe a good driver of success back at that time. But I would say very, very different. I was focusing on more and more my ego and what my ego wanted. And this was pretty much easy to say. Over 30, I wanted to be like rich, like a millionaire, and like it was related to power, influence, money, and then life and my heart showed me a different path.
There is a good book called Happy Sexy Millionaire, which have been written by Stephen Bartlett, who invited you to his podcast, but you declined him. But here you are today. So Stephen Bartlett, if you're watching this, I bullied you. But tell us about the story of Konux. Why did you decide to be a founder? Why did you even try to be an entrepreneur from the beginning? I looked at your CV. You could have chosen any other path. You could have been a consultant, an investment banker, whatever you liked, but you wanted to be a founder. And you already knew that it's tough, but you still chose that path. Why? And how was that path? Walk us through Andreas's days when he was 22, 24.
Yeah, I think like I had I was very blessed to have the support of Unternehmer, to manage more, to actually like embark also on my journey to the US, because back at the time you can imagine Unternehmertum being a little like 100 square meter flat where they built up a small entrepreneurship center, which is now the most successful one in whole Europe. But back at the time, we didn't have such an ecosystem here. So my dream was always I need to go to the US. And once I embarked to Stanford, I could feel what now people can feel in Munich, like how an entrepreneurial ecosystem looks like. And once I was there, I was like, no, I don't want to go to Siemens. I don't want to go to McKinsey. I want to start my own company, because I felt that energy of like wanting to create something. And also I had the feeling that this will be my spark to freedom. Like I will be free because I can do what I want. Literally, when you're an entrepreneur, this is not what this journey looks like. Really? because you're in service of your people. You're in service. You have investors. You have like multi stakeholders. I mean, you feel free, but ultimately you have a big responsibility as well. And I think this is like, but this now coming back to that, how was it when I was in my 20s? I mean, I was working day and night. I was like not sleeping very much. I think I didn't eat too healthy. So but I was only driven like I need to transform that industry, like which in Konux is in the railway industry, is a very old, like government-owned infrastructure business where you want to suddenly deploy sensors and AI technology when AI wasn't even a buzzword yet. So I think this is a little bit on the on that front. And then we were trying to raise money, went back to Germany to raise money, and then we just received no, and then we were lucky going back to California that Andy Bechtelsheim and Michael Baum wrote us our first term sheet of 2 million. And the funny thing is, I still remember how we got that term sheet, which was Michael Baum took us on a bike ride at 6 a.m. in the morning, which means that we had to wake up at 3 a.m. because he lives in Marine country, which is an hour north of San Francisco, and we were living in Palo Alto. So there we were like totally tired, didn't really sleep, and then he was like with his whole biking outfit and said, "Oh, let's do a tour." And then when we were at the steepest part of the mountain, he was asking me, "Hey, let's talk about the term sheet." And then so yeah, we negotiated literally the term sheet during a bike ride where I was sweating. I felt I was dying, and yeah. So I mean, I had to and I think I had to throw up after when we were on top of the mountain after the handshake. So maybe this was omen on how intense my entrepreneurial journey will be. And then with this 2 million from I mean super strong angels, we were able to start really start to build a company, building a product, like facing different challenges in trying to get into one market that then didn't work, then the technology didn't work, and then we had to, in the meanwhile, while we were completely pivoting the company, we needed to raise our next financing round, which was also a very intense journey of 9 months. And then we were very lucky to get NEA on board, one of the largest Silicon Valley investors. And afterwards, I would say at least the warrior of fundraising wasn't that big anymore, because then we had really strong initial investors that helped us to also get new other investors on board along the journey. And in total I think we raised nearly 180 million.
But the founding team also, I know that they put 250K.
Oh no, this was just like even it was more. It was like I had this interesting like moment which I will never forget. So I was sitting in the car with Andy Bechtelsheim, who wasn't an investor yet, but we just received the term sheet from Michael Baum. And then so we were driving in the car, there was a red light, and then Andy looked at me and said, "Hey, Andreas, would you invest in your own company?" And I'm like, "For sure. I mean, I have no money because I had like 1K on my bank account." So and I was like, "For sure, if I would have the money, I would invest in my own company." And then he was like, "But I don't have any, right?" And then he was like, "Yeah, but if you would have it, would you really invest in it?" I said, "Sure." And then so he was looking at me and then saying, "Okay, so if I write you a check right now of 250K, would you invest in your own company?" So my breath stopped. I was like, because I knew this is now serious. I was like, before this was like a little bit more like a joke, but and then he was like, and I was silent for a second, and he was like, "If you don't believe in your own destiny, why should anybody else?" And then I was like, "For sure I would invest in my own company." And so he drove to the side of the street, put out his checkbook, and then wrote me a check of like 250,000 on my name. Said, "Now
Wow.
you can invest in your own company." So, which was basically a loan, right?
Yeah.
Which I had to pay back with quite some interest rate after 7 years, which I did. But at that point, I was basically, I was actually going with that check to Silicon Valley Bank. No, wait a second. It was Bank of America at Central Road, and I was standing there as a student, like. I never had that amount of money or anything in my life, and I was like going there and said, "I want to pay 250K into my bank account." And the lady was like, if you want to pay $250, please use the machine. I was like, no, 250,000. So she pressed a button, the doors closed, and because I was looking like with my tank top and I didn't look that serious, and then I was guided through a room by two guys, and then probably they called Andy, because afterwards the general manager came and was like, oh, it's so great. We just spoke to Andy Bates. I'm so great to have you as a customer. And so I know the story could have ended differently if because they think this was probably, I just tried to fake a check. But this was a very defining moment, because in the moment I then used those 250K loan privately, took the money and invested in Konux, which was by far the best investment I did so far in my life. But it emotionally changed a lot, because what happened afterwards is that the other founders also got loans privately or from the family members to invest in the company. So we totally put in nearly 500K of our own money as seed investors. And in that moment, what we did is, I think, ultimately we burned our ships. Because then there was no way of return, right? Because we couldn't lose. At that moment, it was like, every time we were on the edge of not making it, we knew we couldn't. Because we would be screwed. Yeah. It's like privately. And so, is this a healthy principle? I was thinking about that a lot, but I think ultimately it got us going in the moments where probably maybe we wouldn't have, or we would have given up. And because there were quite a lot of those moments on the Konux journey where it was really on the edge of survival.
So it's basically 7 years of hustling where you didn't have no going back. Like, this is either work or you're kind of fucked.
Yeah. Not only kind of, like, fucked.
Okay. Then how did you approach it? How was a day in your life? Like, how is it a day in the life of Andreas Loy, the CEO?
Yeah. I was waking up very, very early. In the beginning, I didn't do sports. At a certain point, I got things. We had Max in the team, who was later on the COO. He was over like former rugby player, and then I think right now is the European champion in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, while he was the Konux COO. So he was always taking care of his health, his body. And also starting to take care of his mind. We didn't do that really, and we were always laughing about him. Now I was like, shit, I should have better listened to him. And now he's doing jokes about me, but he's also involved in the Yope journey, where we come to maybe a little bit later. But my day was waking up early, checking my phone, especially when we had operations in Japan, China, and like the US, right? There was not one single time zone. There was like all time zones, and I didn't really understand the concept of rest and what rest means, because my body still had this energy, which is in your 20s. I think you have more energy where you can tap into than in any other phase in your life. But even that is precious, right? And I never was able to really balance it. So I was waking up very early, checking my phone first thing. Now it's like it takes 1.5 hours until I check my phone when I wake up.
Still do it.
And
I still do it. And so, I'm feeling bad already.
No, but for me it was like, this was the first thing. Then I got my coffee. Then was like, while I was brushing teeth or something, I was scrolling my emails, and I was already in this kind of mode. Later on, maybe did some sports while doing some email checking, or going on a peloton while riding slacks and stuff. And so I was always on. And Helmut, who know from Unternehmertum, is always like, I'm the, Duracell, the batteries, like I'm like the Duracell rabbit. Like it's like always on. It's like, and I think this was helpful, but it was also distracting, because by that I was like, because I was also the first time founder, inexperience, I led the company so often into multiple directions because I had just too much energy. It was like trying to, we should do this, we should do this, we should do this. And so the clarity and the calmness, especially when you're scaling from founder to a real CEO, I didn't really get, right? It took me quite some time, especially in the phase between Series A and B. I think this costed the company a lot of money. And but it wasn't like, sort of what I'm trying to say is you like as a founder you think you can do everything when you have that energy, when you tap into that energy of creation, but it's also it's a powerful source that when used wisely is like a superpower. It's incredible what you can create in terms of in your company process. If you're not consciously aware of it, then can create the biggest distraction ever.
But how can you then be wise about it? Because in my mind as a founder, I'll be doing everything. At least the first few years I'll be doing everything. How to get that clarity and what does it mean even to have clarity?
I think for me, clarity in that regard means that you're scaling from an individual contributor to a company leader. That means you're in service, like you're not winning because you did the best, you were doing the biggest contribution individually. You're winning when the company is winning. That means when the individuals are basically thriving at their best. So I mean, what I'm trying to say is like using that I was, and me, and especially my other co-founder Vlad, we're always like, we're doing this. If somebody else doesn't do it, we just do it. Like, and we just continue kind of operating in that mode, which is just not scalable and it's not empowering. It's not I think it's more of an ego-driven leadership style. Where while fast forwarding, when I stepped out of Konux because of my health reason, and later on 2.5 years stepped in as the CEO again, we're following very different principles in terms of leadership, and the entrepreneurial success during that phase was much bigger from my, like if you just look at the KPIs than before. So I think what I'm trying to say is that using that wisely means in the moments where you're on the edge, where you need that magic, that spark, right? This energy is incredibly powerful, but you cannot try for 7 years or 10 years on that. That's never sustainably possible. I mean, if you talk to a lot of to all founders that I talk that built 100 million plus companies, I mean, I would say 9 out of 10 either burned out physically, emotionally, or mentally on that journey, because it's not sustainable if you never rest, right?
So would you say work-life balance does not exist if you're a founder?
No, I think to be sustainably successful, you need that, because the reality of the world is changing. It's getting more information every day. It's getting more intense. So that means you actually have a higher pressure than you had probably 10 years ago as a founder. So now if you make the analogy to a high performance athletes 20 years ago versus now, what changed? I mean, the average age of a high performance athlete in his career is getting longer and longer and longer. The amount of world records or the performance goes also linear up. If you look at founder or CEO burnouts, it's going up, and basically the time in office is going down. And now, if you think, where's the difference between those two groups? I mean, both are like, they need to focus, they need to be mentally, like they do a lot when they are operating in on the field or in the office. I think the big difference is The one is like professional athletes are trained in how do you keep body, mind, spirit in balance. And that means focus, like every high performance athlete has deep education in sleep optimization, has deep in nutrition, in movement, how to move. That rest is actually recharging energy. Rest is productive time. If I would say, if you say, no, I need some rest in the office, people are like,
I personally feel bad when I take rest.
Because you personally feel bad. But guess what your body does? Now your mind thinks it's bad. Now you're like feeling bad. So are you in a restful state?
No.
So yeah, that's the answer. And I think because the concept of you need breaks, and this is why even the concept of a weekend is actually a good concept, even though, but if you're not taking your weekend to actually recharge, rather to do more, it probably will never be sustainable.
But aren't you saying this now? Because at some point you succeeded in building a successful venture. So it's easier for you to say right now, because I cannot believe that I cannot believe that you would have built Konux if you sustained work-life balance.
I think I truly believe that that it can be done. I mean, there are some examples who are actually making it vocal that they do sports, that they optimize their sleep, that they look after their nutrition. And I think ultimately, if I would have done that, probably my journey would have been different, and I wouldn't have had a heart burnout, so to say, with my sinus node normally. I think the different, like, for sure it is always easy if you look into the past and say, what would you have changed? But I had even the experience of leading the same company again 2.5 years after my burnout, and I think during that phase I was very, very present when I was there, but I was giving myself in, but I was giving myself up in that sense. I don't know if that makes sense for you, but in that, I think the ultimate growth and performance of the company went up much more tremendously in that time, in this 9 months of experience, than in quite some years of my journey before. And I think ultimately, if you make that analogy again, if you have a founder who like built company A and the other founder builds company B, and the one is taking care of its own body, health, and spirit, he will, I think, create a very different outcome than the founder who doesn't. So I think it's actually, so I mean, for sure, I would love that people come from a place where they say, I'm doing that for myself, to be fully in my power, to be fully present, and using different tools to basically be healthy and be balanced when they come into the room. But I think if you cannot do that for yourself, then I just give you the call and say, hey, but you will perform worse than another founder who does it, right? Mm-hmm. So you can, if this is your edge in terms of, if your trigger is competition, then take that trigger. I think I got a very hard trigger by my heart, and saying, and I think it should start from within. And now every single person have experienced in their life good and bad meetings. If you now think back, what are the ingredients? Like if the CEO walks in and he's like energized and very happy, like positive, looking with a positive mind and with a clarity. Imagine that CEO versus the guy who's like completely, like nearly closed, red eyes, completely confusing. Which company will perform better? I mean, that's I would say it has. I mean, for me, my own health journey when I got my diagnosis. I mean, I was like felt worthless because my calendar was empty, even though I.
We'll get to that.
Okay.
But my question would be, describe us the lifestyle and the way you have been living before you entered the room with the doctor.
Yeah.
And as soon as you hit there, how it was, and the few years afterwards.
Okay, so when I was, I was, as I said, I was waking up very early. I mean, I always woke up with an alarm, didn't have that much sleep. I was sometimes came very late from the office, maybe 9, 10, then still eating something. And then I woke up the next day, checked my phone, tried to still do some sports, just to went into the office, be in the office at 8, and then this was kind of my
And
my
how
life.
was your social life?
I mean, my social life was in the company. It sounds very sad, but I have my friend, like my co-founders are like super close friends, and they're like my brothers now. But my social life was the company, and my wife was gratefully somehow she accepted the whole thing. And I mean, I was so crazy that when I met her in the beginning, I was actually saying to her, I was like, I have like half a day on the weekend. This is all I can offer, because this is the company is everything. And so, and somehow she still dated me. I don't know why, but and later on we got married. But she kind of transformed this half day to one day over, I would say, 7 years. Yeah.
Going back to your friends,
Yeah.
how did you choose them, and why did you choose them? You were 4 co-founders.
Yes, we were four co-founders. Actually, we were in the beginning 5 co-founders, and because we started with 4, then we added, and then we also removed 2 again.
Removed 2.
Yeah. No. Wait a second. We removed 2 in the beginning, and then just.
Why did you remove your co-founders if they were your friends?
No, it was. Why do I remove my co-founders before? Well, I have many stories to tell in that regard, and I think I had to go through very hard experiences there, and I screwed some of them so really badly up, so I made it even worse experience for the others. But I mean, just taking the example of Vlad, who was at the time CTO, and at the point the company was scaling. And we somehow, he was he's a, usually he would be the role also of a CEO better than a CTO, but somehow in our constellation he became the CTO, and then we found a good candidate from Tesla back at the time that we hired and brought over from Silicon Valley, and then it just didn't work, and then he didn't really had a role, and so we had to separate, and I had to fire him and let him go, which was a very uncomfortable experience.
Although he was your friend.
He was my friend. And
Did
then
he knew that you were going to fire him, or how was this the story? Because I cannot do it.
Yeah, no,
Like, firing is really hard.
It's an awkward conversation. It's an awkward thing. And the more emotions you put into it, the more wrong it gets. God thanks, he forgave me after 2 years, and now he was my best man. I was his best man.
Nice.
And so we're like brothers. We're doing a lot of co-investments, and we actually see each other tomorrow. And I'm grateful that could heal. But I think ultimately the reality is founders are special types. Some roles, it's easier to scale from founder to CXO. In other roles, it's just very, very hard. Especially.
Do you regret it? Do you regret it, firing him?
No, it was necessary for the company to grow. And after he forgave me, now it's like it's all.
So for you, was the business above everything?
No, it was the business above everything.
Okay,
definitely. But it was also, I think, we had always some pressure from not really pressure, recommendations from the board. Ultimately, as the CEO, you make the decision, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And I think at a certain phase, it's if it's not good for the company, you're ultimately in service of the whole company and the vision. And if it's in the way, then you need to, you can have that conversation like 2 adults with less emotions, probably, but it will be always emotional as it's friendships.
Okay. And then how was afterwards till you get to the doctor?
Yeah. So you mean my day-to-day life? Or
Yeah, I mean the whole journey of Konux until like how much did you raise? How was the feelings of like being an entrepreneur until reality hits?
No, I think I had like somehow we went on that growth trajectory of okay, we want to build that AI platform or the brain for railways to really kind of transform that industry, and then we got the first clients. We internationalized, and at a certain point we raised more money. I think in total 180. After the largest raise and also a large secondary for all employees and all founders and some early investors, which was the Series C, a couple of weeks later, actually, one of my investors recommended, hey, you should from now on just do a yearly health checkup. So I went to that health checkup. Interestingly, it's in the same street where our first office was. I was like, I still remember that very vividly. So I was going in there, going on that treadmill and starting with like heart check and stuff. And I was like running, and at a certain point, he looked at me and was like, can you please go down there and lay down? And I'm like, okay. He left. 3 people come, and I was like, did you had some issues with your heart? And I was like, and I was like, no. And so there was a lot about like a lot of questions, and then so it turned out I had a sinus node anomaly. What does it mean? It means a damage in your autonomous nervous system where your heart stops.
What do you mean your heart stops?
Yeah, it's just it just stops sometimes randomly.
But isn't
and then so
if your heart stops, you're dead.
Yeah, but no, you're like boom 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 boom.
Okay.
Boom boom.
How many times per day?
Like 1,000 times.
So your heart stops 1,000 times per day.
It stopped. Yeah, back at the time, and I was like, okay.
Did you feel it? Did you feel it?
Yeah, I mean, feeling. We come back to the theme of like back at the time I was so driven, or so like I couldn't really feel myself. But I was like, I thought, oh, it's maybe I have like something in my chest, like something like a just feel it. Yeah. Feel a little bit of a tingling, but I could not associate it to my heart, right? So at that time, and then. So it's a damage in your autonomous nervous system, and nobody knows where it comes from. And then different medications that you could take, surgeries you could take, and so.
Can you cure it?
So that's it. Like if you read about it, it's a damage in your autonomous nervous system. You don't know. So and nobody like this was my field of unknowing, and so. What I decided, I basically go for 2 months off, the first time in my life, and with a mission, I will heal my heart. Because if I can build a big company, I can also heal my heart, even though the odds are. And so, interestingly, that journey led me to to a small island with my wife, where she basically took away my laptop and my phone, and everybody in the company was basically also trying to protect myself from myself, to not think about the company. So I was kind of. Even like everybody tried to shield me off so that I can really heal. And heal myself and try to and so what I learned on that journey is like, first of all, I was starting sleeping without an alarm. I was trying to eat more healthy. I was like and then I tried out yoga. My wife took me to yoga class. My wife took me to meditation class, and then she took me to a breathwork class, which was a very deep, intense experience for me, because I like the first time in 7 years or 8 years, I had to cry. Like I just bursted in tears, and I couldn't stop crying because I felt like I suppressed so much on my journey. But but the ultimate feeling was I can feel myself again, because I somehow couldn't feel myself. This sounds maybe strange, but this is how I felt. And so I figured out on that journey that I had deeper wounds than just my physical heart. But my heart basically called me to heal my heart. So after that journey, I decided to step back as the CEO and chairman of Konux. And yeah, and that I need to heal my heart on many levels. So to say. And then and then I started my self-explorative journey. In the beginning, it was...
How did the investors, the co-founders, everyone at Konux reacted that you were just stepping down?
They were like so incredible, like unbelievable supportive, because they somehow cared about me. Probably they cared more about me than I cared about myself at that time, which tells you a lot about my version of myself and the people that are on the board. And I mean, they were like super supportive. I mean, I got recommendation to doctors, and even our chairman, who was the former CEO of Siemens, Dr. Klaus Kleinfeld, and Klaus was even recommending me his meditation trainer. And he and Michael Bloomberg used the same one, but I didn't want to fly to New York to learn meditation, so I found somebody here, and so I was like, they even helped me with finding peace inside me. But in the beginning, this journey was horrible, because here I was coming back from this island where life was different, out of my like great weather and everything, and then here I am back in Munich and nothing in my calendar. Like, I felt completely worthless. You could say, hey, but you probably made a couple of millions and you're like could design your life how you want. You just need to heal the time.
How old you were?
29.
29 when you came back.
Yeah.
So 29.
When I came back to Munich, and then I needed to heal with that heart issue, and I was like, and I was like, I had the first time in my life nothing to do, which was the most horrible thing, because I felt worthless. And then this led me to the conclusion of, shit, I have even bigger problems than just my heart, because if mentally I cannot feel valuable myself or respect myself when I'm not doing anything, shit, I have an even bigger package. So my first month was just getting more and more things that I figured out in terms of problems that I actually have accumulated over that journey, because I was never thinking about that. So I built a whole, I started to basically study what is happiness, what is joy, why are other people happy, and I'm like here respected founder with connections all over the world to heads of states and wealthy and stuff, and why am I not happy? And this was so I tried to, like, it really bothered me, and then so I started trying out different things, walking in the park, build a whole basically operating model which was very focused on the physical. And
so you took your state of an entrepreneur where you build operations and stuff, and now you apply the same mentality, creating infrastructures and systems to how to find happiness.
Yeah, or joy, or whatever you like, bliss, whatever you call it. But okay. I mean, I was not at a blissful state. I was like, I would say, miserable state, and also having that physical problem in my autonomous nervous system.
Okay, so, what have you done?
What are
the weirdest stuff you have done to kind of find happiness?
Okay, what is the weirdest stuff? I mean, I was there was always. I mean, I can start with the weird stuff and stop with the stuff that sustainably helps. Okay. So nature connection, for example, was something everybody was referring to in all of this book. So I was going into the small park here in Munich. I spent if you spend 30 minutes in nature, and it was like, I think, March, and it wasn't really warm, and so I was going into that park, and people say, yeah, then you will feel the connection to the trees and to the grass, and I was like going around, I felt the most awkward, and going through this park again and again and again. I was like, And then I see the same retired people, and I felt like even more miserable every day seeing the same people. And but interestingly, over time, I could start kind of appreciating trees. I could start appreciating the grass, and I could actually like mentally be open to it's like, okay, I see the leaves growing and looking at leaf structures and how these are like veins and how these are all living beings. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. So I was like, but this was like, I mean, I read a lot about habit building, so I needed to do all of that always 30 to 45 days. And I did it every day to build, to kind of program my neural pathways in my brain, but reprogram towards what is like healthy, happy living in that sense. And so,
what else have you done?
What else have I done? I mean, standing in the sun, going hiking, doing like sauna, love making, whatever is kind of in that realm. And then gratitude, like trying to connect to gratitude, which was super hard for me because I was like, I'm the entrepreneur, I can create everything. And then I was like, and I couldn't write, I am grateful for XYZ, or I couldn't look myself in my eyes in the mirror and say, I love you. Couldn't do that. Now I can do that and I feel it. And so my shortcut to gratitude was then finally when I wrote, I can create gratitude for the sun, for the nature. And at a certain point I started feeling it. And then now I can be grateful this morning, or for the moon, for the stars, and I'm grateful for my life and my existence. So on that journey, interestingly, I was becoming more and more happy. I was becoming more and more myself. I'm less attached to things, and after 1 year, I went to this health checkup, and there was no sign of a sinus node anomaly, which was also never heard of.
So you healed yourself?
Yes. And after 1 year, it was basically gone, and I was a much more happy being. And so. And then, I from that time on, I built, like every human being is different, right? You have your different path that leads you to yourself, whatever that is. For some, it's nature. For some, it's doing a swim. For some, it's being in the sun. For some, it's breathwork. For some, it's meditation. I personally have my operating system, which lead me, like in my morning routine, to a present and very happy space.
What's your morning routine? Maybe anyone will copy paste it and be happy.
As I said, it's very individual because I tried out so many things. But for me, it's simply journaling while having my tea and my coffee in the morning, like first thing, and then I'm actually meditating with breath. Breath is for me the easiest way to meditate, and then doing some movement. Movement can be anything. Can be sports. Can be a pretty intense workout. Can be a yoga. Can be whatever helps you or leads you to yourself. And then kind of a quick restful state, which is again like a small meditation. And then going into a cold shower or jumping into the ocean, depends on where I am, and then I am here, and then I'm present, and then I'm fully in my energy. And then I think usually life throws challenges at you, and now where I'm embarking on these different leadership positions again, I feel like it's all about you managing your state, right? And if you are happy in yourself, then you're fully there, and then everybody will feel it. And I think you will have much more success in your business, much more success in your private, in your life. And I think ultimately the distinguishment of private life, business life is a little bit bullshit for me, because ultimately you have one life. And here you are. You make a conscious decision. You spend your energy into creating a business or into your personal relationship, into adventures, into different experience, and having those different experience with your partner or friends or things. These are all conscious decisions. And I think if you try to separate that too much, it will just create more and more confusion. I think I'm personally feeling like there is a way of integrating life, and you need all aspects of life to be sustainably performant or sustainably happy. When I'm talking about performance, I think performance leads you to success, but success in life, not only success in business.
So for you, success in life is to be peaceful, present, and happy.
I think I would say being yourself, being able to feel, and feeling joy, feeling more like positive energy than negative energy. And so for me personally, it's like this feeling joy and love in my life. I mean, this is where I'm optimizing on. But I don't neglect, and this is why I started this conversation. I mean, this week I felt like a little bit out of balance some days, which is unusual for me nowadays, which was my constant state back at the time. But now I have awareness, I have tools to get me back into the other state. But I'm not neglecting my feelings. If I feel grief, if I need to cry, like if I feel like crying, I cry. It's like it's just being, I think success, being yourself presently, and then you will experience that life is actually a very beautiful journey.
But aren't you saying this because you had millions after you left Konux? Aren't you lucky enough to have this version of yourself now just because you had the other version where you were like ego boosted, you just move towards success, making more money, the business? Because for most of the people who couldn't like being successful like you in a business world, they still don't think, they cannot really connect and see the other side of being, as you say, like having a really good morning routine. They cannot even afford it technically. So how would you...
I think that I would disagree strongly with not afford it. I mean, it's all like if you start breathing and regulating yourself, just for free. Air is for free, even though literally we can talk about sustainability principles. But it is for free for you. You have like every entrepreneur that's in the European scene has running water and like I think it's more of what is your focus, and do you respect yourself enough to invest in yourself and to invest in your own energy? Because if you go into that, like if you don't go to bed early enough, your body won't recover. I like from a neurological standpoint, your brain will not recover. And this is, I think now for sure there's a difference on how how receptive was I back at the time for those tools. I would say not really receptive. Now now the question is, who's the founder of Konux that survived the longest, which is max 10 years, being in a C-level position all the time, and is completely healthy. Why? Because he maintained those. He was approaching basically his job and like a high performance athlete. He needs to sleep. If I would call him at I don't know 9:30, he would just push me away. It's like, and I was very angry. I was like, Max, you need to. He's like, no, dude, you better get yourself together. But this is like he was even holding his space. And I think this is so for me. He's, for example, one of the proofs that it works. And I think this is also what we are currently doing with the Yope Foundation.
Exactly. What's the Yob Foundation? I've read it on your LinkedIn profile. I saw it. And I would love to know what it is and why are you building it?
So, first of all, I think if you're described a couple of times how lucky am I and how blessed am I, and I feel very blessed in my life to have had the luck of my surrounding to have that entrepreneurial journey.
I don't think you were lucky. Just to explain.
Let's call it blessed.
Okay, you were blessed, but you worked hard.
Yes.
And I think your journey was one of the kind that you were really like, you had an eye-opening moment with your heart to kind of know that now it's the moment to kind of consider that there is other aspects in life rather than business.
Yes.
Rather than Konux, basically. But you worked really hard to kind of achieve that. It was it's just not pure luck.
No, I wouldn't. That's true. I think, but I was very blessed by my direction of my investors, direction of my co-founders, my surrounding, and this is what I'm just grateful for. This is what I'm trying to express.
Yes.
The other side of things is like, okay, now here we are, right? The Konux Foundation, and also some other founders in that had really business success journeys, and now so we said, what if we could do it again? What would we change, right? And here's the whole point about managing ourselves and also kind of refocusing. I mean, the world needs a focus on sustainability and positive impact and on the planet and for us as humanity. So is it okay, let's try to build a program with the Yope Foundation. Let's unite some founders, and gratefully we have Michael, who was one of my first investor, who had 3 burnouts, did 5 companies. His last one sold for 28.8 billion last year, and he was. And so, interestingly, when I embarked on my journey, I was very happy. After 1 year, I started to convince all my friends to do meditation, breath work. He was one of them. And I actually started doing retreats. And so he, in one of that breathwork sessions, he connected to himself and said, why did I not know this? Why I'm just learning this when I'm 60? Why not younger? And then so he called me and said, you know what, we need to share this with the world. We need to share this with the next generation of entrepreneurs. And so then he he had still a private foundation where we went through it called founder.org, and then was like, okay, just we reuse that vehicle where there was still a large 2-digit sum money in that he donated in it. 50 million or something like that. We said, now we build a program where we help founders to become their true self, right? Being performant, being reconnecting to themselves, knowing who they truly are, knowing all those tools that we talk about to sustainably perform and build a company. For founders that want to create something with a positive impact and servicing the well-being of humanity and the planet. And they all get a mentor who either screwed himself up or slightly screwed himself up on his own journey, building a 100 million plus company for 1 year and 100K. And to build basically the next the next generation of companies that can sustainably perform, and not like we did, burn ourselves completely out on the journey, and basically prove the case where you were challenging me on if it's possible to basically maintain your health physically, mentally, emotionally on that journey.
I'm challenging you because all the founders I've met, all the successful ones, some of them you already know, Thomas Kirchner, Vladi from Ask Leo, a lot others, they especially the ones who came back from YC, they have this mentality of competition, no sleep, no work-life balance, we just hustle, we make the unicorn, and then
and then we kill ourselves on the journey, and then but somehow this doesn't sound like a great sustainable life, right?
Yeah, that's also true. But applying what you kind of trying to build with Yope now, the whole stuff that the whole info, the whole lifestyle that you have, and let's apply it to you when you were 22, 24 when you started. How would you approach it? So how would you if you go back in time, how would you approach building Konux with the same mentality of Yope?
I think the biggest difference in our regard was really it took us 3 years. Like Yope also has this component, not only founder performance, I mean, and company building basics, but also the part of the alternate future. How do you position your company to create an alternate future for society and the planet? And so for us to come to that kind of alternate future, which then in later on became, after 4 years, the following of transforming railway operations for a sustainable future, and the vision of Konux and the mission basically to increase the capacity, reliability, and cost efficiency of railway to make it the mobility choice of tomorrow. It took so long to get there, and with that, but with having that clear vision and mission later on, fundraising became much easier. And we were suddenly knowing, everybody in the company knows we're contributing to a bigger, audacious goal which serves society. And I think this is another part where I would say if Andreas would have had Yope in the early days, we would have had the alternate future that we're creating, that vision, very crisp, very clear in the beginning after this 1 year. We, for sure, the company building basics, but we went through many accelerators and stuff. So I think those we would have covered and just learned some basics. But the big part would have been, we would have taken more care and hold each other accountable for our health and our well-being. And if somebody is just not present, and you know that when somebody's in a meeting, checking their phone, being like,
that's me.
Yeah. So then it's like just. We would have called ourselves out. And I think in that alternate reality of being going through the Yope program, because it's, if you are not able to manage your state in a meeting, then take some rest. Because then you will be, if you're restful present, be back in that meeting. Then you have your energy, then you're actually a contributor. Otherwise, you're a depletion of energy. Just get out of the room, right? And so I think that's more about, what I'm trying to tell is, if you are really taking care of your own health and your well-being, it leads to higher performance by being fully present. And this is what and I think this would have helped with investor conversations, because then it's not in a pitch, you try to make every point and every point. No, you're just not trying to listen more and understand what does the other person actually need.
2 points about that. Yeah. I would start with the investors. Do you think investors would approach you as an entrepreneur better if you tell them, hey, I don't work 60, 70 hours a week. My health is number one. I'm more into balancing all aspects of my life. Or they will like expect you to kind of be a slave and work every hour of the day just to make this business big and big and big.
Okay. How much does it cost you if the CEO burns out? The founding CEO?
A lot. Good point.
It's like how many, like every time a founder burns out, the company has a 50% of chance to survive. So I think there's statistics out there that prove that case. If you invest early on, and this doesn't mean if like I'm not basically trying to emphasize it's like, oh, let's meditate together the whole day, let's just not work. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say you have the tools to manage your state at any given time that increases your performance in your business. That means you are taking more care about yourself and managing your energy in a more holistic way. So if you're having a partner and every night that partner comes and says, why are you late again? It's like you're actually probably subconsciously having a fear of opening that door because you know what will happen. Your prediction loop goes on and you're like, okay, if I go in there, I'm getting a shitload of things because I, again, didn't manage that expectation that leads you to and you're coming from an overstressed job. So I'm just trying to make the point, if you're present also with your partner saying, hey, look, right now we're going through a tough phase. This is what we like right now. I would love for you to support me. Like after that fundraise, for example, I promise we will take vacation and we do that. And like I'm not saying that every day is. Sometimes there are sprints. And when you're kind of screwing yourself up, at least that you have a conscious awareness of it. I mean, I'm not like when I was going into Konux for 11 months again, I was also having days where I was working later 3 times in 11 months. But I was aware of it. And on the next day, I was like rebalancing myself. And because I had the tools, and I was like, and then I was back with my energy. And I also took my weekends. Before I didn't took my weekends. And actually, before that, my life was mainly weekends for 2 years. So I even called my co-founders that like, whoever invented weekends, God bless that person. I mean, no, because it's important. And I think the analogy to athletes shows you that, because it's just your human body, mind, is just working that way. And I mean, you can physically prove that, and neuroscience can prove that rest is a beneficial, productive time.
Exactly, that's my second point. How do you actually rest and actively rest? Because me, if I rest, I feel bored. And I cannot rest. Like, from a personal perspective, I was sick a few weeks ago and I need to rest for a week. And I basically need to stay in a room, just myself, alone. I was sick, I couldn't do anything. And I felt shitty. I started calling people, just annoying them. And I was like, couldn't do anything. And all the people tell me, hey, just rest. And I got to the point, I didn't know what to do. So I started working and just harming my health.
I think the reality of that is your body. If you don't think, your body is actually working a lot when you're sick, because your cells are renewal. You're fighting a virus. I mean, this is like warfare in your own body that's currently happening. So you're not resting, but you need more rest in that moment to allow that process to be successful and your body to do its magic. So I think that's just my perspective on it. I think the part of being bored and really leaning into that feeling bored is actually an important process, because it feels like it is a hurdle that there's a voice inside you. You're not productive. Productive. I had that voice too, but but I think it's not just maybe explaining that voice that he or she is not very helpful, because to be sustainably productive, you need rest, and so the tools. So I use breath work a lot. Nature. I was like, I will recommend you something. I even some Munich founders and myself invest in a company called Regulate, where they will bring that into kind of boardrooms and the executive. There's this basic an app which shows you tools in 2-3 minutes just to de-stress. So just by breathing, I can show you afterwards. But otherwise, we will screw up the mic. Yeah. I can tell you. It's like
our producer will not be happy about that. But yeah. So for you, resting is a must. Sleep is also a huge factor in this.
I mean, number one, sleep.
Okay.
So I sleep. So I'm tracking now my sleep. I didn't do that for 2 years, but I sleep 7 hours in average, I would say, and I have a routine in the evening just to rewind, to relax a little bit more and to rewind, and so this means also putting off your phone. And then sleep is number one. Nutrition, what you fuel your cells with is quite important, and I think eating healthy is number 2 for me, and number 3 is movement. We are not designed. If you look at where humanity comes from and the history of humanity, we're not actually made to sit on a chair. right?
Actually, these chairs are not comfortable.
No, I find it
Really,
very
they're
comfortable.
not.
I'm
I'm already like,
no, but I what I'm trying to say is, it is, well, your body's not made for it. So movement was always part of all the generations. And if you look like the thousands of years of humanity and how your body was basically transforming and building up, movement was always an initial part of it. And I think this is just to value that and through some sports, through some movement, whatever serves you. It can be a walk. Everyone is different. Everyone is physically different. But if you do those three things, like sleep, nutrition and movement, you're hitting a lot of the point. And then if you're knowing to manage your state, and this is what I mean by rest. Rest doesn't mean I've 2 hours off. Rest can mean just and I bet my heart rate is down at least 5 to 7 points.
interesting. Okay, that's more the physical aspect of it. What about the mental and social aspect of maintaining them while founding and building a business? How do you do it?
I would say I'm coming from principles of how do you not do it, because this is what I experienced the first time, and then the second time I think it went very, very well. I think emotionally, just acknowledging your emotions, right? If somebody is really pissing you off in a meeting, I mean, just like don't suppress it and just be like trying to be present and say, are you okay? It's like, because I feel you're over exaggerating, and I feel you're very angry. Can I help you somehow? It's like because it's like a lot of times subconsciously, I think we're taking the energy that surround us on ourselves, right? So if you're very angry going at me, and then I'm like, what does this guy want? And like in my response lead to my own anger, and my angry response, which is exaggerating emotions, which doesn't have to be. Like, I think you just in that one moment, you can, if you're really present, which is a big challenge, but you can respond differently. And oftentimes it's like, the question is, are you okay? Because I felt this was a little bit too much and not professional, maybe lead to a completely different conversation.
So that's the emotion. What about?
And emotionally, I mean, also the cleansing part is like, if you look at, for example, special forces, what do they do after? I mean, what do they do after going in the war zones and seeing probably the worst that humanity can produce?
Therapy.
Those who don't have to end up with therapy, I mean, it's like there's things like Navy SEALs and like the shower, they just visualize it's all washing off. They go in the evening in the shower and just it washes off. They're trying to cleanse it actively. I mean, the power of the mind is pretty insane, right? If you are thinking truly embodiedly, you can do that. Guess what? You can do it, right? You can do nearly everything. You can push through so many walls, right? Your body is quite powerful by the power of the mind. And so just that, you can try it out. Just for 30 days, you just go on the shower and it's like every single screwed up situation, everything that made you angry, just close your eyes. And when you push on the water, it's just rinsing off. It's like it rinses off. And I think, like, I mean, they have done some of those tools are, I mean, used for reasons for multiple years for those guys, right? They also they use a lot of breath work. It's like when they need to manage their stay. And I was just lately going through a training. There's actually from that training, it's called Spine, where it was about managing your state when you jump out of an airplane from 4,000 meters. And it's like, what does it do to you? And then, and he was like, he had more extreme situations where he was basically shot at, and then either you manage your state where you're like calming yourself, because either you're present, if you're scaring away and you're doing something stupid, you will be dead in that moment. So I think it is like business in a business situation. It's not about dead or life, but it's about that presence and managing your state helps a lot for not doing stupid things that will not be in service of your company, that will not be in service of your team. Because if you're having a difficult conversation with your partner, running into that meeting and you're completely pissed and you bring that energy into that room, guess what? The result will be miserable. And I think it's more of how do you actually go into that room, and if you take that one breath or whatever is your tool to manage your state before, you maybe go into the room and say, whoa, hey, everybody, I feel a little bit off today because I just had a very difficult conversation. I'll be a little bit more silent instead of showing off and bring that emotion in a negative way.
But that's hard.
It's like this is hard. I think presence and managing your state is one of the biggest challenges.
I mean, you can do it with 2-3 people. I would say that they are close to you, like that you can open up to. But going in a room full of strangers, tell them, hey, especially if you're a leader and like C-level and you just go in.
Give you my first all hands when I returned. I didn't know that I will return interim as CEO of Konux back in 2023. I had no time to prepare, so I was just having my laptop. I was in the all hands, and the board just let go of the CEO on the weekend, and everybody, the company didn't know anything. I was like going into that meeting, that all hands meeting with all companies and all the employees, and I promised myself just to be open and authentic. So I started that meeting with saying, I'm as surprised to be here as you are to see me, right? And then I was just being honest and open in any way. And then one employee was asking, yeah, but why don't you stay then as the CEO? Well, now you're returning, why don't you stay? It just killed me. It's like there was a unsolved part in myself. So I started crying in the meeting in front of everybody. It's like, and saying what it is. It's not like I went through the journey. I had like 2.5 years I spent to let go of all that kind of experiences that didn't serve me anymore.
Also, you let go of your ego.
I let go of my ego, but also I let go emotionally back at the time of the company, and to a certain degree, just to be able to heal, I would say. And then there was another thing which I learned on that journey, which was, it wasn't my purpose to lead that company anymore. And that's why I'm doing different things like Yob or Earthchild project, where we're helping children to connect to themselves and each other in nature in township schools in South Africa. And so we are like, it felt like, and there I feel that energy that I need to do that. And not like from a force, but like there is a part of me that really wants to be in service of that.
Driven.
And so I was like stuck, and I just couldn't, but there was still a hurt. It still hurted me somehow internally. That's why I had to cry. And so in front of everybody on the camera in the first all hands, this was my, hey, well, I'm back as the CEO. And then we went through a very like a big turnaround, which also meant to let a lot of people go. But the reactions I received, because I was also very open and honest about it, because it was like there was a lot of mistakes done before in that company. And I took responsibility, and I wanted the leadership to take responsibility. And I think we invited everybody to a Christmas party afterwards, and 80% of the people that were let go came. And because we were open and honest. And I think vulnerability, which is often perceived as a weakness, is a superpower. Because you're just open. Like if I'm open, if you like see every side of me, like there's nothing, there's no politics how can there be politics? If you know I'm feeling not well today, do you think the other person will like put more force on you? No, like I think I know that's like going very deep, but I think most humans are actually like the essence of humanity is good for me. And so compassion is embedded in each and every one of us. And I think if somebody tells me I'm not feeling well, I'm not doing well, and then I'm trying to be of help, because that's a natural reaction. Especially, I mean, for those who have been mothers or fathers, comes very naturally, because you want to be helpful in that moment, and you don't want to like push somebody down who tells you he's not doing well. I think vulnerability helps a lot. And talking about not what you think rather than what you feel. If you say to me what you feel, I can be of help. If you feel I don't feel good about that project because I'm actually feeling a little bit scared that this might ruin the direction of the company, now we have a conversation, because I can ask you where's this fear coming from? What is the underlying root? Where is it? And then you have a real conversation instead of, I think it's a bad project, we need to focus our resources. We're stuck, right?
Great. I mean, crazy journey. Every time I hear the story, I feel like, shit, I need to take care of my health, and there are a lot of things I could learn.
Do it
from
for
you.
yourself. It's like
technically I need to do it for myself, and if I want to be hopefully one day a successful entrepreneur, that's how I can build a sustainable life outside of business and within the business. Andreas, you have the floor to call our audience, and you can tell them whatever you want. Any advice? You're a successful entrepreneur, you're hopefully a happy human. What would you tell them?
I would give the advice to focus on your success. And success means something individually for every one of us. And if you have that life, that gift of life, and use it, have joy, and being an entrepreneur is a very joyful journey. You will feel all other parts of emotions, but if you focus on what brings you joy and what impacts the world positively, I think, and taking some of the advice from this podcast, you can make that journey sustainably and create a better world. And then you will feel very happy.
Andreas, thank you very much. It was a pleasure to have you on board, and hopefully all of our audience will take something out of this. I'm pretty sure of that.
Thank you.
Spark is proudly presented by Ripple Film, storytelling for tech, B2B, and beyond.